Everything that exists has a specific nature. Each entity exists as something in particular and has characteristics that are part of what it is. A is A. And no matter what reality he calls home, Luthor is Luthor.
Superheroes rise and fall in comics. As their stories continue to evolve, there are some we lose and some we keep. Some who withstand the test of time and some who fade into the background or find themselves corrupted and lost to the dark side, becoming villains. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we're going to be revisiting some of those heroes we miss the most as we count down the top 10 superheroes that need to make a comeback. Some of these are heroes we just miss, and for some of them, the timing just feels like it would line up perfectly for them in terms of a grand reappearance. I personally know that there are a few heroes I'm even worried may quickly disappear despite just being introduced a short while ago. So watch out for a few of these newcomers who might even make the cut for fear of us losing them. Alright, now let's get counting. Number 10. Green Lantern MULLEIN. While Jo hasn't gone anywhere yet, I'm still loath to lose her. Lantern MULLEIN is the newest Green Lantern to be introduced in the last Young Animals series that we have left, Far Sector. This comic is amazing, by the way, and if you haven't read it, you should. It's written by the amazing science fiction and fantasy writer N.K. Jemisin with stunning art and colors by Jamal Campbell. Truly a gorgeous and intriguing book. Although Far Sector isn't yet finished, Jo also has yet to make an appearance in, well, any other series. If she does seem to stay within the Far Sector series alone, we need to find a way to get her into some other books. This is a character whose story needs to continue because it's just so good. Admittedly, this is also a creative team I will be sad to see possibly disband. Number 9. ROCKSLIDE. So ROCKSLIDE just passed away in the comics with us losing him in the Ten of Swords event, starting off in Creation. We then got to mourn him in X Factor issue 4, which is part 2 of the story in the event. But even though he just left us and we got some closure and grieving in as well as a weird, twisted replacement version, I already find myself missing ROCKSLIDE and wanting him back. He was one of the often referred to as next-gen mutants, and I always felt like ROCKSLIDE never really got his fair due when it came to his development and stories. Yet he was such a cool character. Although I know not everyone can be resurrected forever, I hope that the mutants do find a way to bring him back and to fix this whole resurrection issue in the long run. Who else could we possibly be losing in Ten of Swords, never to return? I cannot bear it. Number 8. The Nova Corps in the MCU. Nova Corps didn't even get an on-screen death in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We simply heard of the entire Nova Corps death in passing, which is honestly tragic because if we don't somehow see them return, it means that we'll never get a Nova. Considering that the MCU could be heading in the direction of Young Avengers when it comes to changing up their hero roster in the near future, and perhaps we could even get a Champions team with Ms. Marvel joining the MCU, it would be cool to see the Nova Corps somehow return. Maybe at least a few of them survived? This would likely be crucial in order for us to get any of the Novas that we know and love from the comics. Number 7. The Spectre. The Spectre is a hero slash neutral figure slash sometimes villain that has recently been reduced to supporting roles and pop-up appearances in the comics. In the comics, the Spectre is back to being Jim Corrigan, but I also just miss when the Spectre was fallen Green Lantern at the time, Hal Jordan. We have recently seen the Spectre pop up in the 2019 Justice League in one of the latest arcs, but I honestly would love to see the character get his own solo series again. He hasn't really been focused on in that way since the Hal Jordan days, but he's such a powerful and interesting character, it would be cool to see him become more prominently featured again. Number 6. Heimdall. One of the most underutilized characters in the MCU in my opinion. Heimdall is both an Asgardian and Vanir in the comics, meaning basically that he is descended from the gods. His mother herself was the goddess of the sea. He was appointed as the guardian of the Rainbow Bridge by Odin himself due to his powers of perception. Heimdall has the power to see and hear from a great distance, through space and time. Spidey Sense got nothing on his abilities. In the MCU, we knew Heimdall as the guardian of the bridge as well, but he also perished during Endgame along with all of the surviving Asgardians following the catastrophic events of Ragnarok. However, although he might appear to be gone in the MCU, Idris Elba has been reported as expressing his interest in seeing Heimdall somehow return. Elba knows that Heimdall is essentially part of the God family and as such would be into returning in Love and Thunder. Hopefully, director and co-writer Taika Waititi is also interested. Number 5. The Question. The Question is a hero who has seen a lot of change since his first introduction in DC Comics. In the time since the character's introduction, we have had Vic Sage, Renee Montoya, an unknown figure, and Charlie Vic Zaz, who is basically another version of Vic Sage, all take up the mantle. While we appear to mostly be back to Vic Sage as the current Question in the new 52 continuity belonging to Prime Earth, he also has only made a few appearances. He randomly randomly helped Amanda Waller run the Suicide Squad for a bit before reappearing as a villain in that story when he tried to basically take the Suicide Squad from her and turn against Amanda Waller, and made a brief appearance in Heroes in Crisis. But we haven't seen the Question in a solo series as a hero for what feels like forever. Not an ongoing solo series since the Charlie Vick Sage iteration from New Earth, who had a series in 2005. The closest that we've actually got is this Black Label limited series from 2020, which spanned 4 issues. Which is still really good, but you know, it's not an ongoing, it's not a long one. I want more than a limited series. Number 4. Rom the Space Knight. Rom the Space Knight is a character who hasn't been seen in the Marvel Universe since Marvel lost the rights to the character in the 80s. Rom the Space Knight was actually originally a toy that Marvel was leased the rights to by Parker Brothers starting in 1979. In 1986, Marvel lost the rights to the character but managed to hold on to the Space Knights in general. Rom still has comics being made, but the rights to his character are currently owned by IDW Publishing instead. IDW last few series have been limited series featuring the character, the latest being Rom Dire Race, which had to have its 3rd issue delayed due to the global crisis, although we should be seeing that in December. While the comics IDW has been creating recently have been alright, with some superfans falling head over heels in love with them, it would be nice to see Rom return to the level of popularity he once had back in the 80s. In 2015, it was announced that Paramount Pictures / Hasbro Allspark were actually working towards a Rom the Space Knight feature film. In 2018, it was believed that Ready Player One writer Zach Penn was actually working on that script, but lately it's been all quiet on the Rom movie news front. Here's hoping that it eventually comes to fruition and helps to mark a surge in Rom's demand and popularity once again. We want more Rom the Space Knight. Number 3. Ben Reilly. While Ben has made an appearance opposing Conan in the comic series Conan Battle for the Serpent Crown earlier this year in issue number 2, the truth is we haven't seen Ben Reilly doing his own thing for a couple of years. His series Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider ended in 2018, and he made an appearance in Spider-Geddon, but of course, so did a bunch of other Spider folks, because Spider-Verse and Spider-Geddon are kind of all about the Spider people coming together. Ben Reilly is a fan favorite when it comes to alternate Spider-Man, and it would be awesome to see him get his own solo series once more. Check in and see what kind of adventures Ben is up to currently. Number 2. Black Widow. In the MCU, we all know Natasha is now dead, but I don't think I'm the only superfan that is hoping we might get a chance to see her somehow come back to life or return. Black Widow has also died in the comics before and returned by the way of Red Room clones, so it's not impossible considering how much the Red Room seems to be featured in her self-titled feature film that she could be returning this way. We have also heard reports that Scarlett Johansson has signed a deal which would see her return to the MCU in some capacity, though just because we heard it from a reliable source doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Even if Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, becomes the new Black Widow in the cinematic universe, which would be awesome, fans of Natasha's are still going to be hoping we see her return. Honestly, there is so much more that could be explored with Nat is what it comes down to. I feel as though the MCU only really just scratched the surface before they killed her off in Endgame, and all because she just didn't have a traditional family really. The fans demand justice! Number 1. Wally West. So while we do have Wally in the comics right now as he's involved in Flash Forward, we kinda lost the Wally West we were hoping to have in the comics due to the events of Heroes in Crisis. When I say we, I guess I should say some. I'm sure not everyone feels this way, but I know there were quite a few who felt betrayed by the fact that Wally returned to the comics only to be made a temporary villain who was later condemned not just by other heroes but by himself in the aftermath. It's like we just got him back before losing him again. Now he's off trying to redeem himself, but there are many fans who wish that wasn't the case, and that he didn't have to redeem himself at all, as Wally West is known usually for being like the best of the best. Poor Wally West. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad, and thank you for being here. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. We'd love to have you join our big nerd family. Who are some heroes that you would love to see return? Who are some heroes that you hope never resurface? Do you enjoy when heroes go on hiatus, or do you feel their temporary absence is silly? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're on your way down there, why not click that like if you enjoyed this video. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, aka Black Widow this time around. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.
You were right. I am the ugliest guy of all time.